All right. Looking at it, I think I do have plenty of potato in there. I'm going to hold off on the rest. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust this now. It's thickened up just in the time that I was working with those potatoes. So I just pulled up the heat a little bit more. I'm back on about 5 out of 10. And I'm going to add about 2 ladles of liquid, maybe a ladle and a half in there. We're going to adjust that, and then we're going to simmer those potatoes until they're ready. After that, I got a few other finishes to go. And this looks a little thin right now, but believe me, it will thicken. It will thicken a little bit more. They tend to just keep thickening over time. Now, as this simmers, 2 things are going on. Of course, I'm cooking off potatoes, but the other thing that's going on is the starch that we just thickened this chowder with, all of that flour, that tastes really, really starchy. Right now, if I taste this, it's going to feel like raw powder on my tongue, right, on my palate. And so the longer I cook this out, the more that's going to kind of go away, that feel. If you, earlier when we were cooking roux, if you don't cook your roux very long, remember I cooked for about almost 4 or 5 minutes there. If you don't cook your roux long enough, it's going to have a funky, starchy taste to it, almost a chemically like taste, right? And so as you're cooking that roux, cook it long enough. It needs to just turn color a little bit, almost tan color, in my opinion. And then when you are actually simmering this sauce out, sauce, soup, whatever it is, you've got to give it a good 10, 15 minutes of simmer time to kind of cook that starchy feel out of it, okay? And so I'm going to give it another little stir. We're still trying to bring it up. This is a thick soup, so I don't want much time going by before I stir it, okay? Another thing that's happening here, by the way, a third thing I should say, is we are, spoon down, bad chef, we are blending those spices, right? I got the bay leaves in there and the thyme and everything. As this heats up, the flavors, the oils in those are going to be released, and the flavors are going to go along with them into this dish, right? And so that's just going to kind of cruise along. Let's see, other things that need to happen. I am going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper. Now, where did I put the cayenne pepper? I knew I had it. There it is. I didn't put it anywhere. I didn't grab it. Bad chef. So I'm going to do cayenne in this rather than the black pepper for most of my heat. I'm going to put a tiny bit of black pepper at the finish right at the end as I serve. But for now, while it's cooking, I got a little cayenne, not enough to make it a Cajun chowder like we were talking about a minute ago. And I still haven't come back to the boil. That's what I'm trying to do right now, is get it back to that boil. Come on, baby. And then I've got lots of finishes that I want to kind of work on for this. Several things. Most of these quarantine classes, guys, I got to tell you, I'm cleaning out my kitchen, okay? I've got a bunch of bits and bobs. I got a bunch of different herbs and stuff that I'm going to work in. Let me show you what I got for finishes on this. I don't want to throw them in yet because some of these flavors will kind of take over the whole dish. For instance, I have a roasted bell pepper that I used for another project earlier today. I made like a little seafood pasta salad, okay? So I have a little roasted bell pepper into that. It was kind of like a Louis salad. Also in that salad, I had some bay shrimp, okay? I had a few bay shrimp. I didn't want them all in there. So the bay shrimp, I'm gonna toss them in my chowder. It started out as just a potato corn chowder, okay? But now I'm gonna throw the shrimp in there for the heck of it, okay? So it'll be a little bit of a seafood chowder, okay? By the way, all the juice from the shrimp is still in there. That'll add some flavor, okay? I'm back to the boil over here. Let me get back to my pot. There she is. And we are going to let that simmer for a little while. Those potatoes will start cooking down, and it's going to get thicker, as I said, as it goes. Could I use white pepper? That's an excellent, excellent question. The white pepper, usually for those white preparations. Personally, I know a few people aren't too fond of that flavor of white pepper. It's a little musty flavor, in my opinion. Usually when I use the cayenne is when I'm doing the clam chowder, right? Usually those seafood dishes, cayenne tends to be at least my favorite. My pepper of choice, right? When I'm doing those seafood dishes. So I kind of use the cayenne just because I'm so used to using it in a chowder. So I'm going to turn that heat down. I'm at the full boil, and we are going to simmer that until those potatoes are ready to go. Okay, so I don't need to do anything with this shrimp. This bell pepper, I need to cut up. I've got some corn that is part of the finish, okay? I didn't find any fresh corn, and I had a bunch of, when COVID first started, I got a bunch of, you know, frozen corn and a couple of other frozen veggies, and now I'm just trying to use them up. So I'm just gonna use a little frozen corn in there. Usually it would be, you know, of course, it's almost that season to where we'd have some fresh corn. And when we do, I'm doing it all the time. Let's see, how do they differ? White and black pepper are the same actual creature. A white pepper is a black pepper that has been cracked and the outer shell is come off, right? And so it's just the core of the white pepper. It doesn't have quite that rich flavor that black pepper has. It just has the heat, right? You see it used a lot in like Chinese food too, like hot sour soup and things like that. We use white pepper, but it's just the inner core of those black peppercorns, and it's got some heat. It's got some heat. All right, so back to my finishes. I've got some spring onions. These aren't green onions. Normally I might use a green onion or something in my chowder, okay? But these are spring onions. They were little torpedo onions that were just beautiful, okay? Also, I have some dill in here that I'm gonna chop up, if you can see it. If you've never used dill, it's that lacy looking thing there, and it tastes like a pickle, okay? And then I've got some Italian parsley leaves too, and I'm gonna slice those guys up and throw them on in here too, okay? Let's see, if you add a bit of wine or sherry, do you do that at the end? Now, that's an interesting question. For a chowder like this, if you did do that, I might flame some sherry off at the end. I don't know that I would put it in at the beginning of this one. It's kind of throwing me off having the sherry in there. I would use that more in, like, I use some in that French onion soup, right? I use that. And I cooked it in the beginning. I was kind of using that to kind of deglaze. So that worked very well for that. If I'm going to add sherry in at the end or any alcohol at the end, I got to flame it off. Otherwise, it just tastes like raw alcohol. Whoa, sorry. Looking at my ceiling there. Okay. Hopefully that helped. And that's just my 2 cents, right? Every chef kind of has their different opinions. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and start slicing up some of these things, okay? Right now, I'm going to just start with my spring onions here. I'm just going to go straight across the top. Like I said, these were like torpedo onions. And so I'm going to get some little ringlets and things going on in this. It'll be kind of cool. Whenever I slice herbs, I always want to steel my blade. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, we've been at it for about 1 hour here. Usually, by the way, guys, when I'm knocking out a chowder, it's going to take me about a half hour, but it's all this talking and going a little slow and everything. You know how it is. It would probably not take you quite this long to do. So I'm just going straight across the face. I'm not angling this or anything. I just like ringlets. And I'm going very, very fine. You can see the rocking. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. You can see I'm using that rocking motion with my knife. Still trying to adjust my heat on this pot. Still going a little hot. And I'm almost done with these little green spring onions. And they're not going in now. Those are going in as a finish. They're going to be a really nice, bright, oniony finish. Beautiful stuff. And like I said, green onions work just fine. I'm going to just start building all of my herbs together in this bowl right here, because they're all going in at the end. You're going to see a lot of green in my chowder. And all of those sweet potatoes going on in there. It's looking good. And now I got a nice simmer on this, and that's what I want to do now. This is how I cook out my starch. I just have that nice simmer, okay? Right now, it's just a little bloop, 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 maybe a little bit more, turn it up a little more. I'm still trying to find that ideal simmer. I will get a little skin on the surface of this that I want to skim off. And I'm starting to see a little bit kind of starting right there. But that skin is like, you know, I use the starch in the flour to kind of thicken my sauce. But there's other things in the flour like gluten, protein, things like that. And that's going to rise to the surface, and I want to skim that stuff off. So I've got a little cup here that I'm going to use. Let's see. I found another cup. Let's do one of these guys. I found a little cup. And here we go. Here's my cup that I was using earlier for my milk, and I'm going to go ahead and skim the surface of this. If you see any skin developing, I'm seeing a little bit right there. You can just lift that right off the surface. That's about all I saw. And those potatoes are still cruising. We got to get our finishes going. Look at that big old piece of thyme releasing its flavor in there. A couple bay leaves. It's awesome. Okay, the next herb is going to be my dill. And I'm just going to chop that up very, very quickly. I already pulled the stems out of this for the most part. There's a tiniest little stem in there. Yeah, lobster bisque, that's what I'm talking about. We're still talking about the alcohol at the finish. For a finish on soup, lobster bisque is definitely where I would do that. Like flame some brandy at the end, or flame it in a pan and then add the soup to it. Get it all the way hot. And then what we used to do, this is what we used to do with our bisque. We would flame brandy, pour the bisque in, get it hot all the way to a boil, and then we would put it in a bar blender, and then we would blend in chunks of butter in that bar blender, and it would get all frothy and buttery, and then we would throw in like little pieces of lobster or shrimp or whatever seafood we were doing with it that day. That was like beautiful stuff. That was in New York City when I was working at the Grand Hyatt Manhattan at Grand Central Station. So I just chopped up a bunch of dill, sorry guys. And next I'm going to chop up my parsley leaves. A lot of herbs going in. Chowder salad. And I'm not too worried about the dill mixing in with that because it's all going to the same place, right? It's all going in this bowl over here. Now this I'm going to chiffonade on. I'm just going to kind of bunch up my parsley and just cut across the face of that bunch. Chiffonade. I'm just getting a very, very thin slice. You guys see that? That looks good on the camera. I'm kind of watching the camera. I'm not watching my fingers because I've got proper hand position here. This always makes my students nervous because I'm looking somewhere else while I'm doing my cutting. You can see how thin those little slices are. This is probably more than I need. I'm going to save the rest of that. And I'm going to get one more little sip. And then we will clean that off the board. And let's see, there's one more thing to cut up, and then we're heading towards the finish line on this soup. Those potatoes are not going to be much longer. We're probably going to be just on time. I got to clean this hand off. I got a bunch of herbs on me. Here we go. Here we go. Clean this on up. I got one more thing to cut. So there's all my herbs. There are going to be a lot of herbs in this soup. Okay, dill, spring onion, parsley. It's just what I had around. These are all appropriate flavors for this dish. And remember, it's not like there's one recipe for a chowder out there, right? Chowder is just whatever you have. Back in the day, you know, they're just catching things in the ocean and throwing them in a pot, you know, with a little milk sauce, basically a little milk gravy, to be honest. And that's kind of where chowder, you know, throw a couple onions, a couple of potatoes. That's your chowder, man. It isn't, it's not like there's some classic New England clam chowder, right? Although there were laws on the books prohibiting tomato in chowder up in New England. You might know about blue laws. I'm going to remove a little bit more of the skin I found here. And that skin is also going to be something that tastes kind of starchy. So I want to get it out of there. It's kind of lumpy. It's funk. Skim the scum, skim the skin. Get it out of there. This is coming along beautifully. Now, you haven't seen me add any salt yet or anything like that. I haven't really worked it in there so far. I'm not even going to worry about a potato yet. We're just going to let that continue simmering because I got to cut one more thing. Just this little piece of bell pepper I wanted to use up. Oh, before I do, I still have herbs on my table and it's really bothering me. So I got to clean that up. There we go. Boom, boom. And then, yeah, I just have half a bell pepper here. And I'm just going to kind of cut that up into the size of my little corn niblets about. And I want to add it in at the very end. If I added this now, the whole soup would taste like red bell pepper chowder. So I'm going to finish with the red bell pepper. Miss Johnny's out there. Good to see you, young lady. Good to see you. I saw those tacos the other day. I always like those red onions, the way they kind of get all bright when you throw them in your vinegar. Good stuff. It made me want to make tacos too. I wound up making tacos because of you. And thank you for that. Okay, so there's my minced up bell pepper. I'm going to throw that in a little dish here. Boop. And a little more. And I'm going to wipe that on down. And I think I have all of my finishes. I kind of want to do a little wipe down on my whole area. It's a little nasty and it's driving me crazy. Okay, so let me just do a little maintenance here. And we're going to bring this home. This chowder is almost there. Earlier I was using cayenne. I will be finishing with a little black pepper as well. I just like the flavor of that in a chowder at the end. Oh yeah, I bet those tacos were good. Oh yeah. Mine didn't look as fancy as yours. All right. I'm almost ready to check a potato, I think. Okay, let's do that. I've got my pot over here. He's still simmering along. You can kind of see that, again, I am not fond of like a super thick chowder. This is like the bomb to me. It's perfect. The potatoes, the russet potatoes are starting to cook down a little bit, in fact, and help kind of thicken the entire stewy pot. It looks thicker now than it did about 2 seconds ago, doesn't it? Because those potatoes are starting to help thicken. I'm going to give them a little try. We're going to start working on our seasonings here. I'm going to grab a sweet potato first because I think they're going to take longer to cook. I don't think they're there. Ow. Hot. I just did a sweet potato and it was super close. I'd love to give them like 2-3 more minutes. Let me try a russet. I think the russets are going to go even faster. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Don't watch. Okay. Potatoes are essentially done, okay? Another thing we want to do is we want to test this to see that the starchiness has cooked out. So what I would always do with my culinary students was I would tell them to get some on a spoon, put it in your mouth and smush your mouth up against, or smush your tongue up against the roof of your mouth and rub it around. Look for a powdery feel. If you still have that powdery feel, you need to simmer your soup out a little bit longer, okay? If this is thicker than thinner, it's gonna take forever to cook that starchy feel out of there, okay? So I'm gonna feel this on my palate. Just smushing it up there. And there is no powdery, starchy feel going at all. And there's also no raw flour flavor either. So again, when we're doing these thickened, like starch thickened sauces, roux thickened sauces, you want to simmer that stuff out to kind of remove that starchiness. And again, part of that skimming of the skin kind of helped get rid of that stuff, okay? So I'm feeling pretty good about my soup here, okay? I want to start working a little bit of seasoning in because there is a lot of potato in there and they will soak up some seasoning. So here we go with seasoning. I'm going to start with that, just a little bit of salt in there, and hopefully that'll be working into my potatoes. Also, another thing it's wouldn't hurt to throw in is my corn. I love corn chowder. And this summer it'll be like, you know, roasted corn going in and things like that. We are just not there yet. All right. And it's looking pretty thick and beautiful. It looks like a very thick, stewy kind of thing. I don't want to cook these shrimp very long, so they're going to go in kind of, I think I'll throw them in last. I'm going to throw in the red bell pepper. I'm going to throw in my green. All of this green's going in, and it's a lot. I like a chowder that's thick with stuff, not thick with flour. So this is literally thick with ingredients. It's actually so thick, I'm going to be adjusting here in a minute. And the last ingredient going in is going to be my shrimp. And again, that shrimp was just, I had some around from another recipe today. That was not planned. So that shrimp added a little bit of liquid. My next move is going to be to bring this up to a full boil with all those ingredients in it. And now we're heading into the home stretch here, okay? The final step in any recipe that you do, best advice I can give you guys. adjust seasoning and consistency. I've said this many, many times, okay? When I get this up to the boil, then I'm gonna start tasting it. I'm gonna be looking at seasoning. I'm usually talking salt, but hey, maybe I'll work a little lemon in there or something. In fact, I think I will. I usually do on my clam chowder. I got half a lemon here I'm gonna work in. And so I got to check my seasoning. So acids and sweetness or salt and things like that, right? And then I'm also going to look at the consistency of it, right? I want to see if it's too thick or too thin or whatever. If it's too thin, what can I do? I can kind of tighten it with a little cornstarch slurry or something like that. That's about all I can, all I really want to kind of play with at this point. But outside of that, we're essentially done. So as soon as I get to the boil here, we're going into that last stage of adjust seasoning, consistency, and then it's service time, okay? By the way, some people, I've seen some recipes, I've never seen a person do this, but some recipes I've seen like finishing with cream, and this is already kind of a creamy soup and everything. I've always felt that was kind of weird, finishing clam chowder or a regular chowder with cream. It's just too rich, I think. I don't know, it's just me. So I've never really done that. And I don't know too many guys that have. Creamy. But a bisque, I could see doing a bisque or something with finishing a bisque with cream. That makes more sense. La la la. So we are just waiting. I'm gonna have another sip, guys. Let me start tasting, and I'm actually gonna work my black pepper in as well too at the end here. I don't want the black pepper in while I'm sweating and all of that stuff, but I do like a finish. I put a little black pepper on at the table. I'm just getting up to that boil. It's super thick and corny. This is a meal, guys. That's the thing about chowder. It's not an appetizer kind of a soup. It's a stew. It's an entree, right? It's not like, roasted butternut squash puree. That's a course, man. That's not a meal. That's just my opinion. I don't mean to take away from butternut squash soup. I'm going to adjust this consistency with just a little dab of liquid. I was worried this guy was going to be a little on the thin side, but I just added a little more liquid. Almost to that full boil. Come on, baby. Let's go. Come on. We're getting there. Oh, I did the pepper. Let me start tasting. So big one for dipping, little one for tasting. Nate Simon's out there. Chowder. Say it right. Mr. Nate Simon knows how to say it. All right. I really have a nice little cayenne afterburn there. It's perfect. It's just a little hint of like, oh, I'm a little spicy back here, right? It's not up in my face or anything. It's just a super nice little afterburn. I'm just now hitting that boil. I'm throwing in a little bit of salt there. That's what you just kind of missed while I was like looking at myself here. A little bit of salt. And I'm going to hit this with a tiny little burst of lemony goodness just to kind of wake up everyone's palate. I've just turned down the heat because I was at a nice strong boil. You guys have seen me do lemons before. Let me get this out of the packaging here. But I do lemons like they do in a French dining room, okay? I get a fork, I stick it in, and then I move it back and forth while I squeeze. And it gets that juice out pretty effectively. I don't think I need all of that. I'm gonna hold off right there. Let me stir that in. Give it another try. And that lemon, I don't want this to taste like lemon. I just want it to open up my palate a little bit so I can taste things more fully. Acids are fun like that. So is salt too. You know how it brings out flavors, right? Yeah. That lemon, I don't taste it, but it's sure bringing out some nice flavors. I'm going to do a little more lemon. Yeah. There's that fork. There's a little more in there. I'm going for all of it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a tasty chowder. It's very dilly. I like all those veggies in there. Got a ton of potatoes. It's got those sweet potatoes in there. I'm going to stir everything in. I'm going to give it one more check. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a pot of chowder here. By the way, the bouquet, I should mention. Hey there, Michael Cross. Nice bottle of Sauvignon Blanc to go with that. Should we have a social distancing mirror? You can swing by for a mug if you want, brother. But I was going to pull out this bouquet garni, or just bouquet, if you like. And most of those thyme leaves have just fallen off in the process. So I'm just going to kind of kick that to the curb. It's done. Kind of cleaning things up. I'm going to show you my chowder. I guess I could kind of do a bowl. I don't really have a bowl, guys. I don't have a bowl right now. They're all in the dishwasher. They're all clean in the dishwasher. So I am very happy with my soup. I'm going to do one more taste here, and then we're going to call it a day. It's at the full boil, and I got one more spoon. Oh, I found a shrimp. And by the way, I just reached that boil and turned it right off. I threw those little baby shrimps in there. You don't want to cook the daylights out of them. Okay, they went in right at the end, right to the boil. You're done. Turn it off. The bomb. Yeah, I'm dancing. It's really good. I was just thinking, gosh, should I do a little more cayenne? And then I tasted it. And I was like, nope, no, it doesn't need more cayenne. Super good. Yeah. Oh, let's get a bowl out. I'll show you what she looks like, okay? You can't really see the, you can't see the consistency unless you're drawing a spoon or a ladle through it, right? So let me go ahead and just dish some up and you'll really be able to kind of see what it looks like. Just grabbing a ladle here, okay? Let's see, what are we talking about? You could use instead of, what could you use instead of flour in a roux? Like non-gluten, judicious cornstarch, pureed cooked onion. That's a good one, Nate. There are other types of flours too. I just saw it in the store, cassava flour. I used to use that for like non-gluten applications when I worked at a butcher shop where we didn't want to have any gluten in the building, right? Let's see, cassava flour. Any other of those starchy flours, arrowroot, some of those refined starches like arrowroot and cornstarch, though, they tend to look transparent, right? And so you want those non-refined starches like corn flour as opposed to cornstarch might give you more of that appearance of like a corn, like a chowder looks, right? If you just use cornstarch alone on a clam chowder or something like that, it's gonna look like transparent milk, thickened, yeah, I don't know. So it'll have a look to it, okay? This dude is, but hopefully that helped, Johnny. Good question. I like them questions. But yeah, beautiful looking soup, okay? I don't think it needs to be finished with cream or anything. I'm very, very happy with the flavors. Really, really fresh herbal flavors in here. I love it. It's not your grandma's New England clam chowder. And by the way, I did some time cooking up in New England myself. On the weekends from school, I would run up to Newmarket, New Hampshire and work at the Riverworks up there. It was a restaurant that my buddy owned. And yeah, she'd put me on like special guests and I'd go up there, knock out 3 or 4 specials, and then just kind of work the line on the weekends. Just to get me off campus in the wintertime in the frozen north. A couple of little stems, or I'm sorry, leaves, not stems. And you're done. I just had a few extra leaves to throw down. So there it is, folks. Chowder, okay? Some of the things we talked about, this wasn't about a recipe for chowder, guys. This was about several small techniques, right? We started out with rendering. We scalded milk today. We toasted and ground spices today. I think I mentioned rendered. Once I rendered out bacon. Oh, by the way, bacon. Let's throw that on top. It's gonna look like so. Once I rendered out bacon, we started sweating. There's another technique. Oh, look at those big fatties. Okay, beautiful. We started sweating, yet another technique. We laid in some spices, another technique. We added flour and did some roux technique. Okay, that's another technique. Once we did that, we thickened a liquid, yet another technique. And then we simmered that liquid on out and brought it on home with a couple of finishes. All of the bits and pieces in here, the veggies and things like that were just stuff I had around in the kitchen. The base of this, the liquids were milk and white stock. Okay, if you're making a clam chowder, it's milk and clam stock or clam juice or fish stock or something like that, right? But ultimately it was a flour and fat cooked together, used to thicken a liquid, and then I took it from there. I can take this any direction I want to go. I can make cream of broccoli soup using that idea of the flour and the fat cooked together into a white stock, puree broccoli into it, and I've got a soup there, maybe finish with a little cream or something, right? the techniques that we laid down today, you see them in so many other applications, and that's what these classes are all about. I've been doing enough of them so far to where there's a lot of, you're starting to recognize patterns, right? If you've seen 3 or 4 of these classes, you're starting to speak the language and know some of these terms that I'm talking about, and just keep on rolling with it. I mean, you're just gonna keep picking up more. You'll see those patterns, and the more you see it, the more it just kind of soaks in, right? Tattoos onto your brain. Okay, so I hope you guys are enjoying this stuff. Hope you're getting a little something. If not, you know, hey, at least we're getting together and getting out of our headspace for a little bit, guys. You know, there's not much going on out there outside of this, and the world, between the world burning down and between the world being shut down, little things like this keep me sane, and I hope you guys appreciate too. Okay, keep coming. Check out my channel over at YouTube, guys. Please subscribe over there. I'm trying to drive a little traffic on that side. Otherwise, hey, keep cooking with me. I got another show coming up next Monday. Every Monday I'm doing Quarantine Kitchen. I might do a little ice cream in a day or two. I got some ingredients to play with, and so I might film that. I've been playing with getting into pastry, and I might as well go ahead and do that. Finally, on Thursday, I'm going to be talking to Ms. Joni Titherington. She's the project manager over at Oak Park Farmers Market, and she's going to be telling us about Oak Park Farmers Market and how cool it is, and how great they do, if I may say, on keeping the social distancing and running a nice, clean market in these perilous times, right? I am also speaking with Ms. Carissa Jones, if you know her. She is a local teacher and fabulous pastry chef. She is currently running the SCOE challenge, and I have interviewed her before, but my tech didn't work, so I'm interviewing her again, okay? We're actually gonna see what the young lady looks like and talk to her face to face, and we're gonna hear all about the SCOE challenge. She is gathering ingredients. She's delivering them all over town to people, and they cook them, and all they do is post a picture on the SCOE website, and it's just so cool. It's getting people in the kitchen, which is what I am all about, and I'm so excited to be talking with her. I was so bummed our tech didn't work last time, and so I'm super happy to bring her back, and it's going to be awesome. Okay, so Thursday, look for us right over here, Industry Cooking Classes group, and we'll be rolling out with this Between the Two Stoves with Ms. Joey Titherington and Ms. Carissa Jones. Can't wait for it, guys. Hope you enjoyed today. Have a nice little cheers at the end. Everybody take care. Shout out for everybody out there. Nate, Johnny, Kiana, Eddie, all right. Sean, Johnny again, Michael, let's see, Evan, Josh, Eddie, you're all out there, guys. Thanks for showing up. I loved it. And I love all you guys. Don't ever forget, guys, the party's always going to be in the kitchen, okay? Take care, and we will see you this Thursday.